Okay.
Hi everyone, it's lovely to be here this morning. I'm sitting with Katja, with Bart and with Chris. And we all actually came together to talk about health. And this all came out of a Facebook post that Bart had put on one of the groups that we all belong to. And it was just fascinating the way people responded to this Facebook post. So what I'd like to do is just to open up the discussion. The discussion is about our physical health and how mind and our thought processes can have an impact on our physical health. So Bart, I'm just going to hand it over to you because your post was the catalyst for this morning get-together.
Thank you. I just want to share my story of going through leukemia, acute myeloid leukemia. That was at one point life-threatening, and how I dealt with the emotional, the physical roller coaster that it was, and still is. And at one point, last August, I got a torn appendix, and the surgeon at that time said, well, we cannot operate on the appendix because there could be some complications. The day after he came back, well, it's all under control. We're going to give you some antibiotics, but there's some interesting thing going on with your white blood count. So after that, they figured out that my white blood count was way too high, not just for the appendix to be torn, but for me to have leukemia. So I would love to say that when my wife and I got that message that like the world collapsed, but for me it didn't. It was like, okay, I got leukemia. Let's move on and see what's next. So then you get on this roller coaster of you get a catheter, you get chemo, and before you realize, you spend a week in hospital going through chemotherapy and stuff like that. But in the whole process, I think from day one, I was calm and relaxed and pretty serene with the whole thing. It was not like, there are things like I've been coaching. I have my full practice. I had to stop down. Business-wise, financially-wise, it has some implications of going through. That puts quite some stress on the family and family members, but I knew from the beginning that whatever happens, I will be fine. I will be okay. And you have this physical thing that is going, and your body is going through the chemotherapy and all the vomiting and feeling bad. And on the other hand, I had my mental clarity that was, okay, I'm going through this is okay. But it didn't wear me down, if that makes sense. To the point it was the most interesting thing for me to see was how everyone around me reacted differently to the news that I got leukemia. And some people were highly emotional, very dramatic. It brought out like this whole story in the family between my father and my mother and stuff that came up, and that hadn't anything to do with my illness, but it triggered for them and their fears and their doubts and their insecurity, all storylines that we all thought were long forgotten, but it was funny. Actually, for me, it was funny to see, because at some points I thought, oh, am I the only one that's just calm and okay with this? And it's not to say, look at me. It's rather, I was actually quite surprised myself that I was so calm and so okay with the whole thing. And there's this point that you get to where we normally, if you're not sick or haven't been sick that much, you don't think about dying, or like I'm 45. I still have my business going. I was feeling well. 2 weeks before all this happened, I was full of energy, and so, but somehow I felt, and I still feel it's still an open book. The future, I realized the future is more an open book than I thought before it was. Like we have our business going, we have our life going, and we know somehow where we're going the next couple of months or the next couple of years. We sort of set out our game plan of life, how we want to have life. But going through this, I realized that even deeper that we're not in control eventually. And realizing that was and is so, for me, so relaxing to be okay with not being in control. We often try to manage our daily tasks, our daily lives, or get the money in, get the clients, get the kids doing what they need to do, being time in school and stuff like that. But this is like seeing the bigger picture and noticing that you're not eventually you're not in control, and we realize that to some point. We know intellectually, all of us, that we can have a car accident and we can die basically any minute, or we can have a heart attack or something like that. But it's like, for me at least, it's still like on an intellectual level, yes. I know that, but we really don't realize the implications of them. But going through this illness, you almost cannot ignore the fact that you can die very quickly, or not at all. So still, I've gone through 3 phases of chemo. I got a stem cell transplant, and about 15 to 20% of the people who go through a stem cell transplant die within the first 100 days after the stem cell transplant. So the numbers, the statistics are not so great if you look at it logically or intellectually. But still, it felt like the right thing to do. If that makes sense? Because I was okay. I'm okay with the fact that I could die or not, or could live. It's the other thing that I want to say to that is that but when I tell people that I'm okay with dying, that almost always it triggers the reaction of, so you're giving up life. And for me, it's coming from a completely different place, in the sense that I'm totally not giving up on life. I'm rather embracing what life brings me. And of course, there are moments where the chemo and the medication I'm taking is wearing you down a bit or something like that, but it never lasts. Like, sometimes I was lying in I was in isolation for almost 3 months in a hospital room. And often I was so relaxed and actually happy, being happy, but just happy, being in the moment, not thinking about what if this will happen or that will happen, just being there with the whole process. And when you're coming from a different place, that you need to control life, or you need to be in charge of the outcome, then I can imagine that it becomes stressful, and that it's gonna wear you down very fast. Often I got comments, "Oh, don't you get depressed in this room?" I'm like, or I was, no, I'm totally fine with that. The other thing I always hear is that people are really understanding for an illness like cancer. When you got fibromyalgia or something, or a chronic pain disease, people are not so understanding. Or if you have chronic fatigue syndrome or something like that, I know that you don't look as ill as someone who goes through cancer or something like that. Cancer for the outside world is more adapted as, oh, this is something serious, and in that seriousness, people very good willing. They say, oh, be strong, keep on fighting, and every time I hear that, be strong, keep on fighting, I'm going, I'm not fighting. I don't have to be strong, or I don't need any courage for the whole process. I'm just okay with that. And I think, and that's from seeing in my, of course, you don't know, but I think it's due to seeing the three principles from a deeper level, that I'm capable of going through this from a space of pretty well-being, and it's not the worst thing that ever happened to me, or it doesn't feel like that. Yes, I had to stop my coaching business, which I really love to do. Yes, I cannot go. I have not the energy to go run around with the kids and play with the kids, for which I also love to do. I can go swimming. I can take a flight, stuff like that, which I really love to do, travel and stuff. But it's just okay. It's where I am, and to me, there's no sense in fighting the the situation or the context, which I cannot change from a headspace. I cannot by trying to be strong, or I'm not gonna change, or I'm not gonna help my immune system to boost or deal with my body to heal. To me, it makes more sense that the less stress I put on my own system, the faster my body will heal. On the other hand, I do not believe that the leukemia would have healed just from being in a clear space of mind. I needed the chemotherapy at that moment, and I needed the treatment. Because when they figured it out in last August, I was in such a place that I probably could have died within the next 2 weeks if it wasn't treated. And that's what I believe. That doesn't make it true, right? But that's what felt right for me. I think at one point in the whole process, I had the choice to go through a stem cell transplant or not. And when I first read about stem cell transplants and the risks, and I had so much thinking going on that it scared me, and that I really didn't want to go through a stem cell transplant. Because eventually 1/3 of the people that go through it will be hospitalized for a very long time or die in the whole process within the first 100 days. So the risk is pretty high. On the other side, if you do not do that, you probably die from the leukemia, or the leukemia will relapse. And neither choice, if you look at it from an intellectual point of view, is a good choice to take. There are many risks at both choices, but at that point I wasn't in the clear space to make that decision. So I let that go, and excuse me. I think a couple of weeks later, I was. At one point, I got it. Well, the transplant is the right thing to do, and it felt right, and the whole process became clear. And after that, I saw my healing process or my recovering process. I saw it clear as well in my mind. So it felt the right thing to do. But the moment when you start thinking about it, and other people start thinking about it, like my sister, oh, those numbers. And my sister was a donor for me, so I had a chance that a family member could be a donor for me. But she was really and she's really scary about the whole thing. And it's interesting to see that it's her thinking about my process that she's going through, but I'm not going through. That makes sense. And just to say that the decision for me was, I knew that I was getting. I don't want my first impulse was I do not want to have this stem cell transplant because this and this and this and this. The numbers I've looked up, and I walked through the numbers and the statistics with my wife, and you come from a different place than when you. But gladly for me, I think I saw that it was my that I wasn't coming from a clear place to make that decision. So I've been a bit of rambling through all my experience. Maybe does that make sense to you guys? Or
Bart, I've just sent everybody a quick message just to say that I'm so enjoying listening to your story, that it would be really lovely to do kind of like a series of 4 of these, so that we all get a chance to have the time to really, really explore other stories. I mean, you've said so many things in there, and the feelings that I got from what I heard from you was a deep sense of serenity, a deep sense of love, a sense of inevitability, whatever that looks like, and a peace with that. And that just really, really touched me. Because I saw that with my dad. And I couldn't understand it, but I knew something amazing was happening.
Yeah, and sometimes you want to. What came up was that you sometimes want to have a strategy for this understanding, so you can easily teach other people to have that same. So they got, and that, it's interesting because I got so many remarks from friends, from family, from nurses, about how cool or how at ease I was with the whole process. And one night, I think it was through my 2nd month or something, that I was in that room alone, and one nurse stumbles in and she said, "Bob, there's something weird going on. We never hear you. You never call us. We're not used to that." There's one thing. I was in, even going through the chemo, I was in after my first chemo, the leukemia was in remission and still is in remission. And so I was in a better shape my second round of chemo than my first. And I'm still 45, so I'm still pretty young for they have people there 70, 60, 70, and they're probably in a worse shape than I was physically. That's one thing. That probably accounts for me not calling them or But on the other hand, it was like, yeah, that I seemed to be more clear or more relaxed with the whole thing than other people. It's not that I was better or I did things better or something like that, but and now I think of it, I think you going through this, it's not necessary for you to have a three principle background, because people can get that, because that calm and the serenity is there innately, and I can sense that when you're forced to be in a hospital room for 3 months and you have to stop your work, for instance, and everything changes and people have lots of thoughts going on about work or something like that, and now they got in this, they're basically forced to stay in this room. The thinking about work or other things in life stops as well. So they will settle and they will probably see what I saw as well. And then there are other people that tend to hold on the what if I will be okay, and try to manage things. I have to say, I got this. The first week, I tried to figure out different ways or different things that could support my healing, aside from going through the chemotherapy. And so I did a lot of researching alternative healing methods and stuff like that. But at one point I thought, the only thing I really need is just to slow down and go with the whole thing. So I've got this, it's this book, Radical Remission. It has great stories, and the author pointed out like 9 themes that people that has helped people to deal with cancer. And there's a chapter on increasing positive emotions, and there's a chapter on deepening your spiritual connection. So aside from eating healthy and doing other stuff, so it made sense to me that I don't have to look outside for a different method or but rather listen to wisdom coming up and listen to my own system and body. Yeah.
I feel a bit like Jacquie said, there's not much to say, not much to add or even ask. But I still feel that there's one question that keeps coming up, not so much for me, but maybe for if somebody was in the middle of this and maybe did not fall into this peaceful feeling just by themselves and they're still in this. Would you have anything you you would like to share with somebody like this to help them to fall into their innate, peaceful state where they naturally just allow life to be what it is?
I think it's always a challenge. Well, on the one hand, on the other hand, you never know what people are ready for to hear on a deeper level. Let me say this. I know I've touched on chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia earlier. And I've talked with over the last couple of years, I talked with quite a few people who go through through that. And although I don't personally go through that, they most all of them have a hard time letting go of the fight they're having with their own body, with their environment, letting go of and seeing the stress they're putting on their own system. And there is also this mind-body connection thing that is, some people are not ready to hear that. So bringing that back to someone who has, so I found that that group of people sometimes are difficult to reach or talk to them about how their thought projections are creating their experience. Because they've sometimes heard from many doctors and or peers or family that is just between their ears, the problem. So they have this like defense mechanism to not willing to go to that space where they can see that their thoughts are greatly driving their experience. Now, if you're talking about someone who has cancer or someone, and who is emotionally into I think if you want to help them, it helps to have gone through the whole process yourself, not for you to help them, but rather for them to see that you have had the same experience. Because there is this thing, well, you don't understand me, and I've got all the reasons to be down, I'm going through this, I could die in a minute, blah, 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 blah thing. If you, it's like this is the framing of the conversation, and it's part of the framing of the conversation that and sort of a credibility issue almost. If you have gone through a similar disease or a similar life-threatening thing, that you can show them what could be possible for them a bit more easier than someone who hasn't gone through it. So to say that I've something to say to someone, it depends. It's also going to depend on who's in front of me, where they're at, and you know, the whole metaphorical storytelling helps people to relax as well. It's the way we bring it as well that's going to help. Is there something particular I would love them to say? Is that, well, basically that they're thinking, they're feeling, and that they're living in the experience of their thinking. But they're feeling their thinking, sorry. No. Did I sort of answer your question?
Yes, and what struck me also is that you said that you just fell into your innate health. It's already there.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to do anything to get there.
Mm.
It's who you really are, and it was the opposite of doing something, wasn't it? It was like what I call giving yourself to life.
Mm-hmm.
What helped you to fall into a place where you could be listening to an inspiration that comes from inside of you and what's right for you, rather than listening to the stuff that's been written in books or what you find on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what I see most when people fall ill is that we're trying to fix something, we're trying to change something. And what I found beautiful in what you shared with us here is that you really stopped interfering with all that, and you stopped wanting to be in control.
Mm-hmm.
And then fell into a state where, and it doesn't matter what kind of treatment you do, when you fall into the state of giving yourself to life, life goes and brings fresh life. It just reconnects you with the source of life. And
Mm-hmm.
in the midst of despair, in the midst of what you could say a really challenging situation, in the midst of feeling and seeing everybody else's emotions, and it's always there for us in any moment.
Yeah.
That's very powerful.
It is. I must say, I just showed you the book Radical Remission, and one other thing that was in there is that you got to follow your own intuition or your own wisdom. So even if if a treatment doesn't feel right, that's their advice. You shouldn't go through it, and you can stand up and do what the doctors say, because eventually that's what I noticed. You're basically dumbed down to statistics. We're going to do that treatment because statistics say this and this and this. And not that they're not caring, but their decision making is based on statistics. And that's that's coming from a completely different place than what I pointed out earlier, the choice between having a stem cell transplant or not having one. And that's something that most of us are not used to do, or we never learned to do in the first place. So when we get ill, we're often in that place where we listen to those people who are supposed to know it. But rarely slow down enough to just listen to our own wisdom. On the other hand, you see this whole and that's a bit of a different topic. This whole health movement is very almost aggressive, negative towards chemotherapy and stuff like that. So I know some people who have been advised to have chemotherapy, for instance, for breast cancer issues, but they won't do that, not because their wisdom tells them not to do that, but their belief systems about medical practice in general tells them to do that. And that can be so and it's basically the same thing that stopped me first from going through with a stem cell transplant, because I was rather listening to the fearful talks about the complications, and for instance, chemo is often kills, and that's their thinking often is kills. Chemo is bad. It's bad stuff. It makes do things with your body you rather do not want to have. But it also gives, and that was the interesting thing, it also gives the body at one space room to start healing itself again. It breaks down all your white blood counts, your pallets, your it completely shuts down your bone marrow functioning. And then at one point, without anyone doing it, that was another insight for me. After about 10 days, 14 days, your bone marrow starts to reboost itself automatically. So the healing process of the body, the natural healing process of the body, is innate, and basically without maybe them realizing the medical practice, they're using that innate healing mechanism. They're giving space for your body to heal itself, by giving the chemo. So it was a completely different perspective than, for me, the chemo is killing my body. Obviously, I've got some side effects from the chemo and stuff like that aren't good, and you know it my heart functioning is a bit less than what it should normally be. And that's an effect of having the chemo. So, but on the other hand, it gave space for my body to heal itself from the leukemia. So it's I'm not sure where I was going with all this, but I think it comes down back to learning to listen to wisdom rather than thinking what wisdom is. If that makes sense.
There's so much in that again, Bart. I mean, what we see is what we get, right? That's one of those Jack Pransky sayings. And when you see the chemo in the way you see it, it's a complete different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I used to be dead against medication, dead against everything like that was not natural. And I completely changed my mind about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything, like really, really everything, comes from the same source eventually. I mean, right to start with, even chemo has been created by mind. What comes from it and what we make of it is individual, and there's nothing wrong with going through it. And some people even haven't got any side effects because they can rise above that.
Mm.
I don't know. I am just seeing more and more that what we see is just the potential that it could play out anyway, anyway. And we're making it innocently and unconsciously the personal journey within that potential. And I never thought of it like this, that the chemo actually wipes it all clean. And then the body actually has the ability to recreate it, because life, as soon as life comes through, life will create life again. Yeah. That's just really, really powerful. And there's so many more ways of thinking about this. I don't know, Jacquie just sent some chat. What was that?
That was okay, it was just for Chris. Something you said that I found was really, really cute actually, Bart, was watching everybody else around you. And many people would probably say that other people's moods affect them. But what you saw almost seemed comically absurd. How this play within plays was playing out in front of you, and how other people were getting stuck in their thinking, and creating their own mini-series and dramas out of that. I was a nurse and a midwife, and I've worked in the area of health and well-being all of my life, in the pharmaceutical industry, in my own businesses, and as a nurse. So health is something that I just enjoy watching, mostly as an observer, in the perspective of watching how people deal with whatever it is that happens. And as a nurse, you mentioning that, you were quite happy to be in the room by yourself, to enjoy the quiet space. You didn't feel as though you needed anything. And how the nurses found that strange. Because in their world, they're used to being called, they're used to being pulled in all sorts of directions. And when you said that, it just sort of struck me, what I saw was, did that mean that all the times I was called in the middle of the night, no matter what the age group of the person was, were they fearful? Were they just wanting company? Did they just want connection?
Yeah.
And, you know, that was healing to me to see that. And to think of some of my colleagues years ago who would get annoyed that somebody dare ask for help, you know, because they were in the middle of doing something else that, again, they probably felt was terribly important. And so it's just all how we perceive where we are in any given moment, how that's playing out, and how important we feel we are in that moment. And yet, how you were was so divine is the word that comes to mind. Divine in the sense that you probably felt that, but felt so connected to what it was you needed to be connected to, that none of that made sense to you.
I guess the only thing that I can say now that I might be a bit exactly. I'm looking for the word. I want to say I'm glad I've gone through the experience, but glad is maybe a bit of too strong. But because the whole thing, the whole experience, it's not over yet. But I feel I've got the greatest part behind me is that it helped me see more of life, more of people. It helped me, although I was slowed down before, to slow down even more, to enjoy more of life. Sometimes people say, well, you know, when you go through a illness or a very difficult period in your life, then you start to enjoy the small stuff again that we didn't before because we were rushing. Not so much for me because I was already pretty calm and pretty relaxed. And things were in general in life pretty okay. So, but it definitely helped me. I think the biggest thing is that I saw to a deeper level how much we all are living in our thinking experience, And like you just said, Jacquie is I had so wonderful conversations with nurses about so many different things, about life in general, about spiritual things. Where at first, when you get into a hospital, they're running around, they're doing that thing, but somehow they felt that they can. I'm not sure what they're doing with other patients, but they felt space to slow down as well, for even if it was just 5 minutes or something like that, and chat about an upcoming voyage that they were on, or their kids or whatever. And that was good. That was lovely to see. On the other hand, what I also saw is that people who came to visit me, and that was a telling thing, is that most all of them, and it's not that I'm what I'm now going to say might sound arrogant to some, but it isn't, definitely not coming from that space, is that most all of the people that came to visit me didn't came to visit me for me, but rather for their own clearing up their own emotions, their own thinking. And some were even, without them knowing, very overt about it. They said, "Oh, I'm glad that I saw you again today. I come back tomorrow so I can see you again. And then I'm feeling okay. I saw you again." See, it's just to, and I do not blame them for that. I'm totally okay with them just being there for them, rather for themselves, telling them they're there for me. But that was another rather an insight, and then it makes you think, well, maybe I do a similar thing with my other relationships or something like that. Is there a space where I'm coming from that is rather a need that I need to fill in for me, rather than, but I'm telling them, oh, I just want to help them, or I just want to be with you. But it's rather, so it helps you to reflect on your own functioning as well, seeing things, like seeing that that everyone was going through different emotions, different thinking about something I was going personally through, made me realize for myself that that I'm also living in the space of my thinking, and that helped me see things to a deeper level as well. So it was it's a ride, and it's a sometimes it's not a fun ride, but you know that the not so fun part is just also temporary, because the physical, you feel wore out, you feel tired, you feel very tired, but you know I knew in my case that it was only gonna last 5 days or 10 days or something like that. So, and now I feel I'm repeating myself. I'm not sure what else I can have to say about this.
I'm so happy to hear this, Bart, your story. I have not had cancer, but I was seriously ill some years ago, 6 years ago. And maybe it's okay, I just share what happened to me in the hospital, which was before I've heard of the principles, but it made me understand something about the principles I felt when I heard about them. So I got this acute illness, which was my immune defense started attacking my white blood cells. So I started bleeding internally all of a sudden. And my skin turned purple and dark red, and this is within hours. And I got into the emergency unit at the hospital, and I got the works. Everything was done to me at once. Lots of nurses and doctors, and one of the things that I experienced there was that in the middle of all this chaos, I had this feeling of calm. And I felt it was really interesting, because I'm usually a bit of a hypochondriac. Mm-hmm. But when it was worse, I just felt the calm. It was always like humor. I felt there was something funny about it. That I had this feeling of calmness, and they had all kinds of theories about what was wrong with me, and it got worse and worse. I started bleeding out of the nose, and inside my mouth, everything started, swelling, and it's not very pleasant. So one of the things they did was give me medicine. Prednisone, it's called here. I don't know, but it's basically a way of knocking down the immune defense system. You must have had something like that, and I was put into a cancer unit because it's a blood disease, mm-hmm. And so all of this happens, and but one of the things, when I was listening to you, one of the things that, reflecting on it now, is that in a way, I felt some kind of like timelessness. My experience of time disappeared, and so did my daily routines, of course, and so everything was kind of this twilight zone kind of, but I wasn't feeling the fear that I should, I would think that I would feel. I was more like, okay, I'm just experiencing this, like not having the usual filter about it, and trusting that they basically know what they're doing at the hospital. So I was there some days, and it was in a holiday in Easter, and I got put into this cancer ward, and met a lot of people who were going through leukemia, and while I was there, some of them really nicely died, and others came in, new people came in, and all this experience of being in this ward was the only good thing about the ward was that the food was really good. Which is obviously something they do because cancer patients usually don't have appetites. So they try to they tried to make some really nice food, and I had a great appetite because it was not chemo I was getting. But at one night, I was in this. I had my own room. One night, I turned on the telly, and again the humor bit about it. And what they were showing on telly was a movie, a Chinese splatter movie, or what it's called, with heads being chopped off and blood all over the place. And I just said, this is really absurd. I'm lying here in this bed all alone, and that's what's on the telly. It was like, I felt, at just that exact moment, I felt that it popped up in my head, thinking that I could die of this. I can describe the thought process something like having a conversation with God, because I really felt something was present in me that where I just went through my mind as well. This is my life, and this might be the ending. And I said yes. Okay, if it's now, it's okay. And exactly that moment, this sounds really, but this is as close as I can get to this moment. I felt as if there was some light in the room that wasn't there. And I felt a feeling of love coming up through my body. And I felt really, really good, really, really at peace and full of love. And a bit later, a nurse comes in, and I just looked at this nurse, and I just felt that she was the most loving, beautiful person. And then the doctor came. I felt the doctor was a loving, beautiful person. Everyone in the whole ward was beautiful, light beings, almost like. And am I drugged? I thought it was. Is this a drug? Because I really had this feeling of love, and it stayed on for at least 2 or 3 weeks. This very strong feeling of love. It didn't matter what they did to me. All kinds of unpleasant examinations, this and that, bone marrow, this and that. But it's okay. And after that experience, I realized a month or two after that, I realized that I'd always been afraid of dying in my life, and now I'm not. It's like, okay, where did that go? So that was my experience, and so I think that what you were saying really touched me because so, and then there's all the other stuff, the things you can worry about. I can think about of course there is, but I felt something shifted inside that was not a psychological process, or not an intellectual thinking thing, or it was just like, okay, I can die, and this might be now. Mm-hmm. And that's in a way, a feeling of freedom for me, yeah, it's not the story, but I'm trying to point to something that was rather magical. And in the weeks after this magic happened, I don't know the word is right, but I had this, all of a sudden I got this, it came up that I had to drink green tea, and I hate green tea. I started drinking green tea, lots of it, and I don't know why. And a week after I had this notion, I'll have to, I got an email, and it's something about some Qigong, and then, yeah, I'll have to, that's me. I'm going to that course. I'm going to learn this Qigong, spiritual Qigong form. So, and I did it. And, you know, I'm an instructor today and doing this kind of Qigong, this kind of emptiness practice. And nothing, and I don't know where it came from. It just pops up like some kind of messaging system from inside. So that's really what I experienced. And I was just sitting here at my desk when you were talking, and I had this thing here, and that's a 3-minute clock thing, yeah. And the interesting thing is that when you think of time like this, it's, you know, it goes from there to there. You can get really worried, but it's just the illusion of time. And in a way, we are just producing some kind of matrix of time, and that in a way is totally made up. And I think it's very good to be confronted with your own death and accept it. As I think the Buddhists say, that's a way of getting to know you, that you're really present in your life when you stop being in that illusion. So for me, the principles, when I heard of them, it was I could see that there was something pointing the same way to something that I feel I had an experience of. Yeah. So for me, it was almost that spiritual experience being pretty ill. And I have not had any remission, which is very nice. I was told that I was going to, they wanted to cut out my some organs, and I didn't want that. And so my blood count started getting normal, and yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get it again tomorrow. It's okay. Mm-hmm. Mm.
That's a beautiful, amazing story, I think. Maybe you're one of the lucky ones who got a spiritual insight before they got in touch with the 3 principles.
Yeah.
And that helps you probably to see it from experience rather than from up here. What sometimes happens. The other thing that you mentioned, bone marrow functions. I've got like I go in every week for to have my blood counts, my white blood counts and stuff like tested. So it's when I go online in support groups for leukemia and stuff like that, you see lots of people go from pray for me that my blood counts are gonna be okay and stuff like that. And you see that they have lots of thinking going on about their test results or what their test results shall be. And I'm going in every week, and it's like some people would say, oh, he just doesn't care. And to some degree, I don't care, in the sense that I'm not thinking about them, what they will be like. So it's every week it's gonna be like a different story, and I'm not because I can basically go from week to week worrying about what my blood counts will be next week. And it's like you said, if they turn out to be out of whack next week, it's just like that. And then we'll see. And I have some family members who call me like every week, how are your blood counts? How are your blood counts? And there's so much tension about them wanting to know how my blood counts are, because they obviously care about me, and they obviously want to be that I'm all right, but they got more thinking about it than I do.
There's one more thing. It's okay. That I just remembered. I'm very much into photography in the nature, but when I came home from hospital, in our living room we have a large window, and I looked out of the window, and I said to my wife, "Wow, there are birds out there." And the funny thing is, I had this period 3 or 4 years after that where I was almost communicating with birds all of this. I just saw birds everywhere, and I had this feeling that they were there for that they magically appeared. Of course, that we've had birds all the time, but I started noticing things that I never really noticed before, and I started going out in nature and just trying to be open to whatever met me or meets me. And so whereas my life before that was very much oriented to which theory or which book or which education, whatever I was into at the time, I had this like an open window in my mind to nature. And I see it all as connected today. It's really part of me, and I'm part of it. Whereas before I had more like a blockage of some sort, and I feel more open to that. So in a way, the illness and the healing has also brought some. It's, how can I say, expanded my bandwidth in life, and I'm not that worried anymore about what's going to happen to me or my economy or whatever, because it's basically okay to some extent when I'm not thinking too much, of course. But and that's a shift. So in that way, I feel my illness has been a teacher, and also has given me some insights into life that I didn't have before. But it's not a sugar-coated story. It's not like this happened and now everything feels well all the time. That's not what I mean. It's more like I felt something shift that made me get closer to who I really am in an innate sense of this looking at the world. And I've been together with several people who were dying after this, and some good friends that died, and I just realized that I visited a very good friend of mine who died of cancer after a long period, and she was drawing and painting. She's never been doing that in her life, and I looked at her what she was painting, and she was painting birds, and I said, "Wow, you see it too."
Mm-hmm.
So just a little bit comment on your story.
I think you made a good point to say that it's not that everything is now magically all right or magically okay, because there's still days that, or mornings that I get worked up about my 6-year-old daughter who is who needs to be in school at 8:30 and is not getting dressed up and stuff like that. And she's playing and she's all over the place and stuff like that, but doing anything but getting dressed. So, and then it happens that you get annoyed by things out there and stuff like that, or or even being in the hospital, being sick, or at this moment, especially the first week when I was back after my stem cell, I felt my recovery wasn't going as fast as I wished to, and it took me like 3 days to see that I was putting lots of thoughts on what my recovery should look like. So I was basically the first 3 days after I was fighting the state I was in. And the funny part is when you let that go, things will evolve. So it's not all magically perfect or something like that. Far from that, because first of all, your body isn't feeling well, so you have to go through that. But to me, it feels like it's not because my body is hurting, my muscles are hurting. I have no energy to do anything that I should feel disappointed, worried, bad, or something like that. It's like a different layer of experience that makes, thinking, like, for me, like, thinking overrides everything. It overrides the physical experience. You have the pain and you have and they come through as well, but you have your layer of thinking that about your body, or not about your body, or about your experience, that can override anything. And even if you're feeling bad at one moment and you go in, that the next moment your thoughts can be about something else, and that experience, your whole experience changes, even though your body is still hurting the same way it did 2 minutes ago. Yeah. So I see we're already talking for an hour and a half almost. I'm not sure what I can say more.
It's probably actually quite a nice place to leave it, Bart. Just to, there's a quietness within me, and I'm not sure that it's within everybody else. But what you've said today has been deeply touching, and also you, Chris and Katja, and it would be a shame to keep what we've all heard to ourselves, because I think it'll touch a lot of people. And I'm sure that each and all of us will find a way to do that. I just like to say thank you, because what I've seen and felt is, as I said earlier, is love, vulnerability, humility, humour, and just a wee bit of mischievousness, which I always love to see, because life is so precious, but so is living. And I think a lot of people forget to live in their lives. So thank you very much. And if we're all ready, we'll just end the recording and maybe just hang on for a minute or two.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.